It's so great. So Charlie Parker with strings, kind of essential melodic interpretation listening right there.
Yeah, I would also throw Coltrane ballads on that list in terms of horn players and how they interpret melodies without lyrics, because maybe, John, to your point, there's like a balance to be found, because if you're not singing the lyrics, maybe you have a chance to interpret the melody a little differently, you know?
Yeah, you wonder, and would the composers be like upset that you did that to their melody? I mean,
Yeah.
or would they be like, oh, that's great that's how that person's playing that melody? I mean, we think a lot about this. We certainly are trying to pay respect to a lot of how people, another record that's amazing is Coleman Hawkins encounters Ben Webster. Listen to how those guys play melody. It's almost like they're in a competition to see who can play the melody the best, And but yeah, it's interesting. The choices that we have to make artistically should come from a place where we've been aware of what the possibilities are. Like anything that just is automatic, doubling notes and repeating notes. It should be thought about a little bit, especially when we study jazz the way that all of us who are listening to the podcast are probably studying jazz, because we want to play the music, in the best way we can possibly play it,
What about like Benson doing like breezing? I mean, you got to think of as a guitar player, he put melodic guitar like on the map in a way that few people had before him, right?
Oh man, or even before that, listen to his duo with Freddie Hubbard on Here's That Rainy Day, and he's playing this beautiful chord melody, and you can always hear the melody on top. Or one of the most infamous versions is that version of Tenderly he plays over and over and over again from '89 from Tenderly. But you watch all the clips online of gear reviews, and there's Benson playing that version of Tenderly, but he plays it, and he makes sure that you can really hear that melody on top. Because one of his idols was Nat King Cole, who was probably one of the great melodic vocalists in history, So, yeah, it comes from a lot of our inspiration. Do you guys find that, like with modern jazz guitar, that kind of dark, semi-hollow body kind of sound that was pioneered by maybe Metheny and Stern and Sco and into Kurt and all of these guys, that sometimes it can be a little hard to explore some of these kinds of degrees of melody? Or do you guys find that's, I'm just curious, because I find the arch top helps me so much with getting a wide dynamic range and getting a different range of articulation, because it's really a semi-acoustic guitar. Will, I'm curious what you think about that, and Perry too.
I think there are arguments both ways. I think it's hard to kind of argue one over the other. In my case, I enjoy interpreting melodies differently on an electric versus an arch top for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Metheny,
no comment.
Stern, and Sco, those very different sounds, even different guitars, right? But in terms of the hollow body being limited and that sort of darker sound, I don't think it's hindered Metheny at all when it comes to playing melodies. He's obviously explored way beyond that sound, but that's one of the things I really admire about his sound, is that he's able to get that sort of darker sound that still has clarity to it, can still cut with a big ensemble. So,
well, yeah, and like Kurt Rosenwinkel, If I Should Lose You from Deep Song, that's a beautiful way he plays that melody, but that's a ton of sustain, and I don't even consider that a super dark sound, but no. It's just interesting to me. I hear a lot of players play with a really, really dark tone. And I've personally in the past, when I've experimented with that with semi hollow bodies guitars, I've struggled with a lot of the parameters that we're talking about. Because it's really like design. That sound seems to be designed to play in a certain ensemble or a certain style with certain kinds of lines. I don't know. It's just something I've thought a lot about in terms of balancing the melodic interpretation with the actual philosophy of tone that you have.
So let's do one thing before we wrap it up here. I want to take Happy Birthday, the melody Happy Birthday, and have us each go around. We'll play the melody, and in between the melody, we're going to compliment ourselves with maybe some counterpoint melodies or like a secondary melody. If you listen to Wynton Marsalis do this, there's a great masterclass. He's somewhere in France, and he's just playing the melody a cappella, and then he plays little lines in between. So this is kind of getting into how to create a counter melody, right? So I'm going to do it in C. Just simple things like that, right?
Okay.